live to the public and available on the council website. This meeting is also recorded by the council for subsequent broadcast via the council internet site. Before starting the items, please can the Democratic Services Officer confirm with our sound and audio engineer that there are no issues with the streaming of this meeting so far and is available to the public. I also want to set out some important health and safety information for attendees to know. There is a long-running and lately more heightened risk to the health and safety of elected representatives. As a council, there is an overarching responsibility to ensure that councillors are able to carry out their duties and responsibilities in a safe environment and without any risk of harassment, intimidation, or violence. Therefore, if any interruption is deemed as a risk to the health and safety of the attendees, security will immediately take reasonable action to eliminate the risk and remove the individuals from the meeting room. There will be no risk taken to preserve the safety of attendees, and I ask that attendees note this information. If any issues arise, I will explain the procedures. I will now move on to item 2. Apologies for absences. I call on the Director for Children's Services.
Mr. Mayor, the following councillors have provided apologies. Councillor Johnson, Councillor Adamu, Councillor Ibrahim, Councillor Collette, Councillor Rossetti, Councillor Da Costa, Councillor Moeed, Councillor Chandwani, Councillor Edward Elliott, and Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you very much. I move on to item 3, late items of urgent business. I call on the Director of Children's Services.
Mr. Mayor, I am asking you to agree the admission of the following late items of business that could not be available earlier and need to be dealt with at this meeting. These are as follows. Item 7, report of proportionality and appointments to committee. Okay, I'll speak into the mic. Perfect. Mr. Mayor, I am asking you to agree the admissions of the following late items of business that could not be available earlier and need to be dealt with at this meeting. These are as follows. Item 7, the report on proportionality and appointments to committees. Item 9, reports from the Standards Committee. Item 11, questions and written answers. Item 12, motions. Item 7 is late as there was a need for political group consultations on the appointments to committee following the changes to the political composition of the council. In relation to the Standards Committee report under item 9, this was late to allow some minor clarifications, and these recommendations required consideration prior to the November council meeting. In relation to item 11, questions and written answers, the reasons for lateness is that notice of questions is not requested until 10 clear days before the meeting, following which the matters raised need to be researched and replies prepared to be given at the meeting. Item 12, motions. The amendments to motions are not requested until 10 a.m. on the day of the council meeting, and we have received an amendment to motion B, which has been published and distributed today in the tabled pack.
I accept these as late items of business for the reasons outlined. Moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. Please can members consider the information on agenda item 4 on the front of the agenda. Would anyone like to declare an interest? No? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 5, minutes of the council meeting held on the 19th of May, 2025. I call on the Director for Children's Services.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask the council to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of May 2025.
Are they agreed? Thank you. Moving on to item 6, Mayor's communications. So I have emailed my communications to members prior to the meeting and wanted to briefly highlight the following. So I am pleased to report that we have 72, I think, engagements as a mayoral team, a testament to our active and hardworking borough. I'd like to thank the deputy mayor and the previous mayors for helping spread our presence across the borough. It's been a great few months for sports, especially with the mighty Spurs winning the Europa League. There's a few Arsenal fans, I think, in the crowd. And our very own London Mets, which are based in Finsbury Park, winning the National Baseball Championships. It's also been a year of celebrations, with Antwerp Arms turning 10, Jackson's Lane turning 50, Lordship Lane Primary School turning 120, and our own Dorothy Holderness of Hornsey Lane turning 106. We also hosted a range of civic events, including opening Pride Month, our Windrush celebrations, Armed Forces Day flag raising, and remembering genocide in Srebrenica. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the backbench councillors for attending and representing Haringey. I know the leader and some of the cabinet members usually attend, but a big thank you to the backbenchers who have also attended. But in particular, I'd like to thank Councillor Peacock and Councillor Bevan, who I believe attended every single civic ceremony so far. So thank you very much, and I hope to see a lot more of you at the civic ceremonies. And for further information about the events that I have attended, please refer to my email. Now, we are saddened to hear the sad passing of the following former councillors: Alan Richardson, Vince Gillespie, and Charlie Sharp. I offer the councillors' condolences to the family and friends of these former councillors who, like us, spent their lives in serving the community. I call on Councillor Peacock, Councillor Weston, and Councillor Hawley Harris to speak, and we will then continue with a 1-minute silence. So starting off with Councillor Peacock, you have 2 minutes.
Is it on?
Yes.
Right. It's very sad when I get up to speak at full council to report on the death of previous ex-councillors. But there are not many left today who have known and worked with them. I think there are only 4 of us left here still serving. That's Councillor Archides, Councillor Reg Rice, Councillor Adamu, and myself. I have many memories of the 3 ex-councillors that we're recording and speaking about today. 3 men who I've known and had great pleasure of working with on previous councils are Vince Gillespie, Alan Richardson, and Charlie Sharp. Although they have not been on the council for a long time, some of us have been in contact with them over the years, as you'll hear later, as they continue to play a part in the life of Haringey. Before I was elected to serve on the council in 1994, I was Tottenham's election agent and had great pleasure in successfully getting many men and women elected to the council. One of them I'm reporting on today is Vince Gillespie, who was elected in 1986, and Vince stood down in 2002. Vince was a key proponent for positive images in Haringey and was the chair of the council's lesbian and gay committee, because in those days we did not have committee structure. We just had cabinet structure. Oh, sorry, didn't have committee structure, we had cabinet structure. Sorry, I'm getting it all wrong. Vince was a keen Spurs supporter and proud of his working class roots. Although not on the council, Vince continued to play his part, working with fellow residents on his state committees. Alan Richardson came on the council in 1998 when he won the seat from Forties Green. Alan served just 1 term, as he was a very busy lecturer teaching trade union studies. Alan was shocked at that time to be elected and never failed to remind us that he and his 2 fellow councillors unexpectedly won all 3 seats of the Forties Green ward when they had been assured that they were only paper candidates and that they would not win. Another fellow
Councillor, sorry, that's time. Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you. That's time. Unfortunately, that's unfortunate time. It was 2 minutes from the start of the meeting. Sorry, councillor,
Sorry.
it was 2 minutes.
Continue.
Okay, finish your sentence and then we'll.
Past circumstance, councillors here could request extra time, and I'm asking them to let me have extra time to finish 2 sentences. Is that agreed? Thank you. Another fellow councillor has now passed away, is Charlie Sharp. Charlie won the seat in Crouch End Ward in 1994 and served until 2002. I met Charlie again last year when he asked if he could have a stall for the University of the Third Age, an annual event that I put on every year, which of course I agreed to. I now hand over to Councillor Weston and also to Councillor Corley Harrison.
Thank you very much. Councillor Weston, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Sheila. Council, it's with great sadness that I speak today to remember Charlie Sharp. Charlie was a Labour councillor for Crouch End Ward between 1994 and 2002. Well, he was elected in 1994 and again in 1998. He had a very keen interest in planning and served as vice chair of the planning committee for a time. Planning and the built environment became long-standing interests, which Charlie continued to pursue. In recent years, acting as secretary to the Crouch End Neighbourhood Forum and convening the architecture group in the local University of the Third Age. This wasn't Charlie's only interest, of course. Another great love was beer. So he had a love of real ale and also convened a beer appreciation group in the University of the Third Age. He was, of course, devoted to his partner, Kay, and together with their 2 dogs, they were a familiar sight around Crouch End and Hornsey. Charlie was committed to his community. A Hornsey resident of over 40 years, Charlie had been a governor of Highgate Wood School and remained active in our local branch Labour Party. He was a knowledgeable and extremely helpful member of the party's Middle Lane Premises Committee, and he was a consistent source of support for me and my councillor colleagues in Hornsey Ward. This is something we were and will remain profoundly grateful for. Charlie was a gentle and steadfast presence, unfailingly polite and truly kind. He was universally liked and respected. Our deepest condolences are with Kay and their family and friends, and Hornsey and Crouch End are very much poorer for his loss. We'll miss him tremendously. Thank you.
Councillor Corley Harrison, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to place on record my condolences to the family of Charlie Sharp on their loss. I first met Charlie when I first became a councillor in 2018 as a member of the Crouch End Neighbourhood Forum. He was, in fact, a founding member of the forum and served on the executive committee right through until he retired from it earlier this year. I actually did not know at the time that Charlie had been a previous councillor for Crouch End, and indeed one of a different political colour. He was nothing but warm and welcoming to me following my election, informative, helpful, and incredibly knowledgeable, especially on all matters relating to Crouch End, even chairing the Crouch End Clock Tower restoration project in the mid-90s. Upon hearing the news of his passing, I spoke with another former Crouch End councillor, who some of you may remember, David Winskill, who actually took Charlie's seat, so to speak, in 2002. And David spoke of a similar experience of Charlie to my own. Kind, informative, well-wishing, helpful, and an absolute fount of knowledge about being a Crouch End councillor, and completely graceful to him following the election, despite being from different parties, being one of the first to congratulate him. In fact, he actually cites Charlie as one of the reasons he got involved in local politics. So on a complete contrast to the rather officious meetings of the council, he was seen as fun, engaging, and a breath of fresh air.
Sorry,
David and many of the Crouch End residents.
Please finish your sentence.
Thank you. And many of the Crouch End residents went on to work with him for many years after that in many guises locally, such as with the Neighbourhood Forum and U3A. And they, like all others I talked to, speak of just how sorely Charlie will be missed. Thank you.
Please now all stand for a 1 minute silence as a mark of respect. Please be seated. I now move to item 7. I call on the Director for Children's Services.
This report is asking council to note the political composition of the council following the changes to political groups and to agree that Councillor Patton replaces Councillor Dogan on the General Purposes Committee.
I call on the Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the recommendations in the report be agreed.
Are the recommendations in the report at page 1 of the supplementary pack agreed? Thank you. We now move on to item 8 to receive the report of the Monitoring Officer and Director of Legal and Governance. I call on the Monitoring Officer.
Mr. Mayor, I have no matters to report.
Thank you. I now move on to item 9, reports from committees. We are at item 9, reports from committees, and we have one report to consider as part of this item, which is a report from the Standards Committee outlining a change to the Pensions Committee and Board terms of reference. I invite Councillor Ali, Chair of the Standards Committee, to introduce his report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I move the report, I'd like to thank, on record, my thanks to the working group, the Constitutional Working Group, and in particular, Councillor Bevan, who's been very dogged and clear that we need to sort of realign the way that we appoint the Vice Chair for the Pensions Board and Committee. And with that, I'd like to move the report in my name. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the report? No. Please, can we agree the recommendations in the report set out in the supplementary pack at page 16? Are they agreed? That concludes the item. I now move on to item 10, deputations or petitions. We have received a deputation from the Coalition of Latin Americans in the UK. The group works across London and Manchester and are well-established community partners with the Ward's Corner Community Plan, and have previously worked jointly to address the needs of Haringey's Latin American residents. Jacobo Belletti and Vicky Alvarez, please come forward to the microphone, and you have 5 minutes in total to make your representations. Thank you. And just to mention, there is a timer there if that's helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Esteemed representatives and community members in the gallery, I'm standing or sitting on the shoulders of giants when I say this, that it's a very important moment for the Latin American community in Haringey, in London and in the UK. We have been in this country for decades. We have spanning first and second and even third generations of Latin Americans, and even given way to something called British Latinidad. So a form of hybrid culture that combines what Britain has and what Latin American can offer. The visual recognition is a way to give back to a community that has contributed so much to the local borough in Haringey. It's a community who has given its all to other local communities and with whom we build solidarity. Without Latin Americans, Tottenham football would not be the same. Without Latin Americans, there would not be a Seven Sisters market. Personally, this is a full circle moment. As I arrived to the UK as a teenager, and I was not expecting to find my community here. But I arrived to the Latin village as a young teenager, as a student, with a need to feel a little bit more at home. And this lady sitting next to me welcomed me with open arms. I was finally at home in London. Through the Latin American community in Haringey, I've learned what resilience looks like. The cultural vibrance and joy of this borough have been marked by empanadas, salsa, cumbia, and a maracuya juice. This is a group of people who haven't stopped sharing their culture despite being invisibilized. And today, we ask that Haringey officially recognize Latin Americans as an ethnic group and work with us in achieving official recognition at a national level. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacobo. Mr. Mayor, for me, it just came after 35 years, and it means a word to us, and it means a word to me, especially because I think we are one step closer to stop being invisible, to the borough that we love so much. We work so hard. The Latin market is about to open, and then it's a huge achievement for the community, which all of you are invited. I don't know the date just yet, but it's going to be very soon in the next month. And then I want Tottenham to be as proud as we are to be part of Tottenham, to have a Latin American community here. We got so much to offer. We are very hardworking people and very resilient. And I'm very proud to say that despite the market has been closed for the past 4 years, all the traders are coming back to the market, which is a huge achievement. Thank you. I'm going to say it quickly in Spanish, please. Compañeros, hoy es un día tan importante para todos nosotros que cuando hablo de esto me dan ganas de llorar, porque estamos a un pasito más de dejar de ser invisibles. Lo que hemos logrado hoy en este borough tiene que ser las semillas para que ustedes que viven, muchos de ustedes que viven en otros boroughs, sigamos esparciéndolas. Nosotros somos latinos y tenemos que sentirnos súper orgullosos. Muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy y estar acompañándonos. Thank you.
Gracias. Are there any questions from councillors on this deputation? I see Councillor Mason. You have. Okay, you have a brief question. There's no time then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there's no time limit. Brief.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, and really happy to hear what you're doing and what you have to say. I worked for many years with Latin American Women's Rights Organisation and Latin American Women's Aid, and very, very, very impressed by their work. They helped us with a lot of cases, and I just wanted to know whether you had those connections and you might be able to help bring those into the borough as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, so the Coalition of Latin Americans in the UK, which was established in 2012, LAWS, Latin American Women's Rights Service, and LAWA were founding members of this coalition. Today we have representatives from LAWA and Latin American Women's Aid, and LAWS continues to be part of the steering group as well. So I'm very proud as well of the work that they have achieved in Haringey, and we know that a lot of local residents benefit from the work of these Latin American organizations.
Do I see any further questions? Councillor Blake?
Thank you, Mayor. Can the representatives tell us a little bit more about the range of services the members of the coalition provide? Thank you.
Thank you. So as also was mentioned, there are women's rights organizations that provide gender-based violence support to Latin American and global majority women. There are members who provide legal advice services on immigration, on employment support. There are members that provide education services for children and young people, and a sort of a range of sort of holistic services that all the community organizations are offering.
Thank you very much. And do I see, is that? Sorry, I couldn't see you there.
Oh, sorry. Do you guys have any idea or any concept of maybe see this crowd here? They all love, I'm sure, to learn salsa.
That is one of the many services and many things that we're going to do when the market open hours. Don't worry, I will see you there. You will be the first one.
And do we have any other questions? No? I will call on the Cabinet Member for Placemaking and Local Government to respond, Local Economy to respond. Councillor Gordon, you have 5 minutes in total.
Thank you. I was hoping if I speak slowly and stop in between sentences, then if you'd be kind enough to translate for me, I'd be really grateful. I can't tell you how delighted I am to respond to your deputation. It's been a long time, Vicky. That I think that you really deserve this recognition as a community. And I know your community has worked so hard over these decades to get this recognition. And I'm really proud that you've come here today and that we are able to positively respond to this in front of all of the traders. I can see many of the traders are here today to witness this. I'm aware that the coalition does amazing work for this recognition, and it's a vital work that you do in order to address some of the socio-economic issues that face this particular community. You know, whether that's on the question of low pay, 0-hour contracts, ESOL provision, fair access to health, or participation in civic life, including increasing rates of voter participation. The cultural and economic values that Latin American businesses bring to Haringey are hugely important. They're a key part of Haringey's economy, and we want to see these businesses increase and thrive, nowhere more so than in South Tottenham, around Seven Sisters Market. We are proud of the many diverse communities we have in Haringey, but until now, we haven't had a formal recognition of this community's existence and the way in which, as a council, we can ensure that the interests of the community has an equal voice in our borough. I was really heartened to hear when Jacobus said about how he came to the market and was welcomed, because Seven Sisters Market isn't just a place where you can get the best empanadas. We all know that is true anyway, but it is representative of a community and a family spirit. We know that young and old were always welcome at the market, and I'm so delighted that they will be welcome again in the very, very near future. I would call upon you to stay. We will be having a motion that will be put at item 12 in the agenda, and I hope that you will stay and listen to the motion and hear us put that. Hopefully, it will get support. But I'll speak to that later.
Can I translate a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it on? Yes. Before I start, thank you so much, Councillor Gordon. Before I start translating, we bought a lot of food for everybody. For us, all this is about food as well. So we got a lot of food, but please, we're going to stay until the end. Please join us at the end because it's food for everybody. Okay. La concejal ha dicho que reconoce mucho el trabajo que todos nosotros hemos hecho en la comunidad. Se siente muy orgullosa y se pone a llorar de ver el struggle de todos nosotros durante todos estos años. Entonces, ella está súper contenta, ella reconoce la importancia de nosotros en la comunidad. ¿Okay? Bueno, es que estoy como tan contenta que no sé, yo le puedo pasar a Jacobo que me ayude.
Y el resto también hablaba un poco sobre el beneficio que el mercado trae al borough y la oportunidad que se va a presentar en el momento que reabra el mercado. Y hoy también con la moción para reconocer la identidad latinoamericana en el borough del que va a hablar próximamente la concejal. Thank you.
Thank you for your representations. You and your colleagues can return to your seats. Thank you very much. We now move to item 11 to answer questions. As part of this item, we also have one public question. Therefore, we will begin with this and then move to receive the responses to the written questions, and then finally consider the councillor oral questions. So may I invite Ruby Slay to ask her question?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Ruby Slee, and I'm asking this question on behalf of the Plant-Based Council's campaign. We've been urging you for over 2 years now to fulfil the commitment in your Climate Action Plan from 2021, in which the Council promised to develop policies around promotion of vegetarian and vegan food in order to mitigate the greenhouse gas emissions caused by animal agriculture. In March 2023, we asked the full council to fulfil its net zero commitment by ensuring that catering at internal meetings and events is fully plant-based. Councillor Haggerty, along with many other councillors representing Haringey residents, showed support at that meeting, but no action was taken yet. In February 2024, we asked the full council again to take action on its commitment. Again, we are not yet aware of any actions taken on what are your increasingly urgent climate targets. In Wood Green, similarly having good conversations and about the need to tackle agricultural emissions as a key part of the borough's journey to net zero. We are yet to see any evidence that these are being put into action. Animal agriculture, including meat, eggs and dairy, is responsible for the same quantity of global warming as all transport systems globally. Yet, whilst there are many efforts to decarbonise our energy and transport sectors, there is incredibly little political action on decarbonising the food industry. We will not be able to meet the climate targets of meeting net zero if the consumption of meat and dairy products continues. Plant-based agriculture is a simple and well-proven solution to this issue. Plant-based diets have been shown to produce 75% less greenhouse gas emissions, 54% less water, and use up to 10 times less land than animal alternatives. This in turn frees up that land for rewilding and nature restoration, allowing us to meet national targets to reverse species loss and draw down carbon from the atmosphere. Other London boroughs, including Lewisham and Enfield, have already committed to fully plant-based catering for all their internal meetings and events. Camden Council are in the process of making the change too. Many other councils.
Sorry to cut you off, Ruby, but I've just been told you've asked the part of your question that you sent as a written question. So that's the only part that we accept. So I see here that you've sent 3 paragraphs, and apparently you've gone over this. Is that correct, or is it still?
It's the same topic. I was kind of like embellishing on here.
Yeah, but due to council procedures, we can only accept what you've written in, so we can't take any more than that. So do you think that you've said what you need to say in terms of that written response, or?
If I just go to the last paragraph in that case?
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let me just. We are living through heat waves and droughts, soaring food prices, and widespread loss of biodiversity, while policies continue to be debated with no tangible action. There is no time for further deliberation on this simple and well-proven suggestion. We have been told that you have been in favour of implementing this change for years, so could you please confirm for us today when you will stop buying and serving animal products? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I call on the Cabinet Member for Climate Action, Environment and Transport to respond. You have 5 minutes to respond. Thank you.
It shouldn't take 5 minutes, but thank you. Thank you for raising this important question about plant-based practices. Your advocacy demonstrates exactly what is called The Politics of Care, where individual and collective choices about food reflect our deeper values about environmental stewardship and social justice. The Politics of Care is fundamentally about expanding the spaces where individuals can make a difference. Haringey Council shares your commitment to sustainable food systems. We're already implementing substantial measures through our Haringey Food Action Plan, which provides our strategic framework for tackling food insecurity and promoting healthy, sustainable eating across the borough. Our approach focuses on building the social infrastructure where plant-based choices can flourish naturally. We're proud partners in transformative projects like Eat Wood Green at Wood Green Library, where we're creating community-led food growing spaces, and our ongoing collaboration with the Wolves Lane Centre Consortium, led by Organic Lee and Ubeli Initiative, which continues as a vital hub for sustainable food production and education. Rather than mandating specific dietary approaches, we're creating the enabling conditions for residents to make informed, sustainable food choices. We've maintained policies for sustainably sourced food procurement, and we're now expanding community access to local food growing through urban farming initiatives. The evidence suggests that sustainable food transitions happen most effectively when they emerge from community values and local action. We'd welcome working with you to explore how we can further embed plant-based options into our food systems whilst respecting the diverse dietary needs and cultural culinary delights right across our borough. Your passion represents exactly the kind of community leadership that makes real environmental progress possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Now, Ruby, you have the opportunity to ask a follow-up question only for clarification purposes, not to ask a follow-up question, not to ask a different question to that subject matter. So do you have a clarification question?
Thank you very much for that. I think the clarifying question, our ask is that it's council internal catering that goes plant-based, which can't be community-led. So is that something that you will tackle?
Councillor, would you like to respond?
Yeah. So our approach is to take a community approach and a wide approach that represents our desires for everybody. So what we are requesting for council staff is the same as what we would request for residents of the borough, which is to promote sustainable food practices, is to promote plant-based food, but not to mandate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Yeah, thank you very much. Can we please give a round of applause to Ruby for coming? Now, I have accepted the responses to written questions admitted as late business. Please, can we receive them? Is that agreed? Sure. So we start off. So we have 9 oral questions from members. Please, can councillors participating in this item be ready when I call them for their question item? So we start off with question 1. I ask Councillor Connor to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question to Councillor Carlin. Could you confirm the level of exceptional financial support Haringey was forced to draw down at the end of the last financial year, and how any support was composed in terms of loans and capital receipts? Thank you.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Carlin to respond. You have 3 minutes for a response.
Thank you, Mayor. Despite considerable extra funding being put into the 24-25 budget, the demand and cost of delivering essential services again outstripped the funding, primarily in adult social care and temporary accommodation for homeless households. These overspends were predicted throughout the year, and we requested exceptional financial support, as you know, of 28 million. However, judicious use of contingency funds and reserves meant that we needed to borrow 10 million to close the budget, and that was in the form of borrowing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Connor to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you, Councillor Carlin, for the answer. So with last week's cabinet papers showing that our budget gap could reach, in the worst case scenario, up to 62.5 million in 2026-27, without even factoring the government's proposed cuts to Haringey's funding allocation, it's hard to see how we get near to a stable financial footing. Now it appears the government bailout the administration were holding out for isn't coming. Reform to social care by the government has been kicked into the long grass, and there's no sign of action on temporary accommodation, and our budget gaps are currently projected to increase year on year. Do you have faith that you will be able to set a balanced budget this year? Thank you.
Councillor Carlin, you have one.
Councillor Connor, that's not the question that I was provided with. So I will suggest that we actually give that as a written answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we just check that through Democratic Services?
That's right.
Can the Democratic Service Officer please?
Okay. I mean, I'm going to respond, but
Okay, just to confirm, Council Standing Order 10.7, which says the second supplement, sorry, the first supplementary question should be relevant to the original question.
Okay, well, I will respond to the question. Just it wasn't the supplementary I was expecting. As you are aware, the council has put in place a number of responses and emergency response and recovery plan that is overseen by officers. There is a gold and silver board and also a cabinet board that monitors this. There are also emergency arrangements that have been put in place since the beginning of the year to reduce non-essential spend on all services, which includes a panel that looks at all spending over £1,000 and a recruitment panel to consider all new requests to recruit. The council is doing everything possible to reduce the amount of money that we spend. However, we do have essential services for our most vulnerable residents that we have to provide. If an adult requires adult social care, we have to provide that. If a child requires a placement that costs us £10,000 or £15,000 a week, we have to provide that placement. These things are not within our gift to refuse, and the spending on our essential services and temporary accommodation, we know the issues that we have across London. The three overspends of adult social care, children's social care and temporary accommodation are seen in boroughs up and down the country and are seen in Haringey as well. And the overspends that are coming forward are being seen in in a lot of other London boroughs, especially our statistical neighbours. We are doing everything possible. At this point in time, we do not know yet, as the year goes on, exactly how much of the 37 million exceptional financial support that we have already requested we will require. But all we can do is what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any second supplementary questions in accordance with SEO 10.7? No. So after the questions, that completes question 1. Question 2, I call on Councillor Carroll to put his question to the Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning and Deputy Leader of the Council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could the Cabinet Member share more about the Council's £570 million investment in refurbishing our council homes?
Councillor Williams, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we are indeed investing 570 million in our council homes over the next 10 years through our partnering contracts, giving us the ability to mobilise works quickly without having to go through lengthy individual procurement processes for each bit of work we need to do. Our key objectives are to meet the decent home standards in all our council homes by 2028 and keep it that way. Since bringing Homes for Haringey back in-house, we've made rapid progress. From a low start point of less than 70% at decent standard, we're already at over 80% decent standard. Our new partnering contracts will accelerate this improvement. Also bring all our council homes to a minimum of an Energy Performance Certificate B by 2035, making homes cooler in the summer and cheaper to keep warm in the winter. And also ensure that statutory safety standards are maintained in all of our homes.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Carroll to ask a supplementary question.
And are local residents going to be utilised as part of these contracts?
Councillor Williams, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a key part of these contracts is to keep the investment local. So that's employment and training opportunities are going to be given to local people, and that our local businesses, the supply chain, are used to provide everything that's needed in these building works, keeping millions of pounds of spend local here in Haringey. This is a landmark investment in our borough. The scope of works included in the investment, as I've said, the decent homes related works, building safety, fire safety related works, block refurbishment works, mechanical and electrical works, decarbonisation related works, neighbourhood and estate improvement works, internal and external cyclical works. So this will enable us really to make all our council homes better.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any second supplementary questions? No. So that completes question 2. We move on to question 3. I ask Councillor Corley Harrison to put his question to the Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Residents who use Park Road Leisure Centre feel that communication from the centre is below expectations. The recent closure for planned works with a week's notice being the most obvious example, and that they are not being listened to, such as on long-standing requests for longer Lido hours and more family swim sessions from spring through to autumn. Can you confirm what work is being done to improve relations and communication with centre users and on plans for extending the Lido provision?
By Councillor Arkell to respond. You have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry to hear residents feel this way. The council is always keen to improve its communication with residents, and I would also want to give customers as much notice of closures as possible, but a week's notice is an adequate notice for a park closure of a leisure centre. On the 5th of June, a new version of the Leisure app was launched to customers, which now includes push notifications to mobile devices of registered users, and use of the app has risen significantly since the insourcing of leisure services in October 2024, from an initial 6,000 users per month to over 7,500 users now. We have also installed new digital displays in the leisure centres for displaying service updates, and regular meetings are taking place on both operational and a strategic level with the Park Road Lido user group. I met with the group on the 29th of April and have been in contact with them since then, most recently last week regarding the covers for the Lido, timetabling and procurement of a new pool hoover. Another example of our commitment to ongoing dialogue with customers to improve services at leisure sites across the borough is the imminent launch of an engagement process on the gym refurbishment at Park Road. Regarding Lido provision, there has been an increase in the overall opening hours from October 2024, when weekday opening was 8 hours during the day between 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and weekday opening hours were 6 hours. This has been achieved through recruitment and training of additional lifeguards for the service. The Lido opening hours are as follows. So on weekdays, it's open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. with 30-minute closures to facilitate programme changes which happen between 3 and 3:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m, where lane swimming ends for the commencement of early family swim sessions, and on weekends from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with closures at 11 to 11:30 a.m. and 1:30 to 2 p.m. for changeovers. The additional hours have significantly increased the visitor capacity for swimmers. When the service was insourced, the capacity was 800 visitors per day for weekdays and 300 visitors on weekends. The new capacity is 1,200 per day on weekdays and 700 on weekends. And effectively, this is an increase of 1/3 capacity for weekdays and more than double the capacity at weekends. With additional lifeguard recruitment that is currently ongoing and progressing, we aim to extend weekday Lido opening hours further from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And weekday family swims have also been increased each weekday by 30 minutes from 1 hour to 90 minutes since the 30th of June, offering better value for money for families.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Corley Harrison to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you may be aware, London Fields Lido is open from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. And as you're probably also aware, it's been a long-term ambition of the Park Road Lido user group to have opening hours of 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Can you confirm if you'll be moving towards those hours? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arkell, you have 1 minute to respond.
We can certainly take that away and consider that, but obviously it depends on whether or not we're able to recruit lifeguards into these positions to enable us to increase the additional capacity on top of what has already been delivered.
Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions? No. That completes question 3. I move on to question 4. I ask Councillor Gunes to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Communities.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor, could you speak a bit closer to the mic?
Could the Cabinet Member explain how the Council, through its community networks, is supporting and listening to our many diverse communities in Haringey? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oba, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Gunesh. The Haringey deal reflects this Labor administration's commitment to working in partnership with our communities. A core part of this approach is the development of community networks that create space for residents and organisations to connect, share priorities and collaborate with partners such as the NHS, police, ICB and council services. We have helped establish and support the following community networks: Somali Community Network, Turkish and Kurdish Community Network, Women's Community Network, African and Caribbean Community Network, LGBTQIA+ Community Network. We're also working to strengthen relationships with the Latin American community, including through ongoing engagement at Ward's Corner. These networks have fostered strong partnerships and unlocked funding for both one-off events and multi-year programs. For example, the Somali Community Network secured ICB Inequalities Fund for a borough-wide mental health support program delivered in community settings. The community networks have enabled rapid responses in times of need, such as the Turkish and Kurdish Community Network's coordination of support after the 2023 Syria-Turkey earthquakes, and have led targeted interventions like housing surgeries that helped around 200 Somali residents address issues such as repairs and overcrowding. Beyond service delivery, networks have deepened our understanding of community needs through lived experiences, storytelling, and community-led research. They've also helped initiate important conversations about service responses, such as engagement between Turkish and Kurdish groups and police after the closure of the Kurdish Community Centre, and have improved connections with consultations on service redesign, both in the Council and NHS. We remain committed to growing and sustaining these networks. Working with the Haringey Community Collaborative, we aim to support their development towards becoming self-sustaining while continuing to nurture new and emerging groups across Haringey.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I invite Councillor Gunes to ask a supplementary question. No? Thank you very much. Are there any second supplementary questions in accordance to SCR 10.7? No. Thank you. That completes question 4. I now move on to invite Councillor Emery to put his question to the Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fly tipping is becoming a huge problem in Queenswood, with more than 20 large-scale incidents in the past year. With the perpetrators now causing ecological damage by dumping in the wood itself, will Haringey take proper sustained enforcement and commit to bringing in CCTV?
Thank you. Councillor Arkell, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Queenswood itself falls under parks in terms of fly tips. I think this question was originally assigned to Councillor Chandwani, who's obviously not here this evening. But enforcement and the highways around the wood fall under the waste team in terms of waste and cleansing. Fly tips occur both in Queenswood itself and on Woodvale, Queenswood Road and Wood Lane that bisects the wood. And most fly tips are on the road running through the wood. There was one particularly bad fly tip in June within the wood, which included 3 loads of builders' rubbish that Veolia supported with the clearance. Like in many parks at this time of year, there are isolated occurrences of fly tips of large items and other household waste. Regarding roads surrounding Queenswood, enforcement work and camera deployment is priority focused to ensure resources are targeted on a needs basis. And officers have checked the statistics for the ward and roads surrounding the woods in general, and the level of fly tipping is on the lower side in comparison to other hotspots. None of the roads have appeared in the top highest 10 roads in 2 years, and the ward itself was the 6th lowest ward borough-wide in terms of fly tipping numbers for Q3 in 2024 to 2025. Veolia fly tip operatives check for evidence that all fly tips collected, but to date have not found anything from these locations that identify who perpetrated it. The data concludes that the limited amount of cameras we have available cannot be placed here at this moment in time. However, I am awaiting some new signage to put up here, and some monitoring has been undertaken by our enforcement team within the last 4 months. And checks were also carried out locally for businesses in regard to duty of care for waste management responsibilities. We will obviously continue to monitor, and should the numbers increase, we will look to deploy a camera where possible.
Thank you very much. I now invite Councillor Emery to ask a supplementary question.
As you've correctly pointed out, the large fly tip that occurred in June was building waste. I would contest, however, that this is the only one so far that has contained building waste. Several residents have noted that when it's being collected, that it's not being identified or collected in a way that means that it's being collected together with other types of fly tips, which means this may not be investigated. Can the council please confirm that it is actually being investigated, especially large-scale fly tips like this one?
Thank you very much. Councillor Arkell, you have
So I refer Councillor Emery to the answer I've just given, which is that they are checked for identifiable and identified identities within that waste, and obviously we continue to monitor that if any other fly tips occur in the vicinity.
Thank you very much. Are there any second supplementary questions? No, I will move on to question 6. Can I ask Councillor Brennan to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Children, Schools and Families?
The government recently expanded the free school meals programme to all children in households on universal credit, ensuring an additional 17,000 school children in Haringey can continue learning on a full stomach. Could the Cabinet Member share how the Council is also supporting schools and children to access free school meals?
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Bravison. You have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm always pleased to talk about free school meals, which in Haringey, I think we can say our campaigning is ongoing, continuous, and has been really quite successful. We've started planning now for 2026, which of course in planning terms and council terms is not very far away. So we will be working to see how we maximise the government's expansion so that all the children in this borough who are eligible for free school meals will be registered so that we can draw down as much money as we possibly can from the government's programme. We've been running a campaign for free school meals now for well over 2 years, and we have seen take up increase with children who are eligible in the government scheme, which is different from the mayor's scheme. So I won't go into the detail of that because I will bore you rigid. However, suffice to say that this year we've already secured an extra £123,000 for schools in terms of food costs, and an extra £606,000 for pupil premium. So for our schools, it's really important that they know every single child who is eligible for free school meals in the government's programme, because that draws down the pupil premium. And for our poorer schools in the east of the borough, that is hugely important. What we're doing now, September, we'll be starting a new campaign, starting again, promoting our video, and we're also going to be, I hope, working with head teachers to secure group procurement to reduce food costs and other costs through a programme run by the Department for Education. We're doing all sorts of eligibility rechecks and working with a GLA partner, Policy and Practice, to implement, we hope, auto-enrolment. Whether that actually happens is with the GLA. We are also working to provide additional support to the maintained nursery schools to ensure children on their roll also access free school meals. Finally, there are two other programmes. The Household Support Fund has been extended to April 2026, and free school meals are the top of the list of the groups, people who are supported, ensuring free school meals for eligible children during school holidays. That programme will be continued in the next financial year, but under another name, because it's a Labour government, we will have a new name. And we also have the Holiday Activity and Food Fund, which starting this week will be supporting children in our schools, getting free school meals and activities for those who are eligible. So all round, a good news story.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I invite Councillor Brennan to ask a supplementary question. No. Are there any second supplementary questions? No. That completes question 6. I now move on to question 7. Can I ask Councillor Mason to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Health, Social Care and Wellbeing?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Desnavas. Research shows how vital it is to reduce isolation and increase opportunities for exercise and healthy living. Working with the community and voluntary sector is key to delivery and to increasing resources. This is only possible with accessible premises in all neighbourhoods. Using wards as neighbourhoods, can you identify which wards have accessible free spaces which can be used to develop community and early intervention activities? Thank you.
I invite Councillor Desnavas. You have 3 minutes to respond.
Chair and Council. First thing to say is that we should keep in mind that neighbourhoods do mean different things to different people. Some of us go to a doctor in one ward, we shop in another, we work in another, and we go to a park in another. And by contrast, the NHS definitions of neighbourhood at the moment look like 50,000 people and the zone of the primary care network. So quite different maybe to certainly some of the residents in my ward who might consider neighbourhood the few streets around their house and where they live. The council, and specifically public health and adult social care and my portfolio, work with, fund and commission a range of voluntary and community organisations to reduce health inequalities and improve health and well-being overall. My colleague Ajda, with the voluntary and community sector strategy and social values work, along with Ruth, working on buildings and the infamous or famous SAMPIP strategy, continue to combine their efforts to make sure we have a fair and transparent process around access to spaces in the borough. For organisations unable to negotiate on their own premises, the council can support them to find spaces, but this has to be balanced with the best value and the proven outcomes of the organisation. This is an ongoing dialogue, and I strongly recommend that any specific organisations who do have concerns around venues and access follow up with the council and also work with the council's voluntary sector partner, the Haringey Community Collaborative, to seek solution and answers to finding the best way to deliver their service in the community.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I invite Councillor Mason to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you. Perhaps the slight rewording to my question has changed its meaning, because it wasn't a question that was meant to be purely about the community and voluntary sector. It was meant to be a question about access to resources for people who are experiencing isolation, and also from obesity and other issues which are very community led. Firstly, I'd just like to ask you, when you say that these resources to communities are not local, I would just ask you whether you have considered the issue of social class, and the fact that to travel to a lot of different amenities is quite costly. And so people who have lower income tend not to travel as much as people who have a higher income. I would also at the same time like to ask you about areas with no free accessible indoor space, and whether the council considers, and you consider, that there is a responsibility to acquire or find some shared space where services can be offered to the people who need them most.
I believe that was two questions rather than one question. Which one would you like answered? Yeah, which one would you like answered?
They overlap, and I'm sure council doesn't have a
Okay, well, we'll answer the first one, since the councillor only has 1 minute to respond, and I'm sure if you email her, she can answer the second by email response.
Thank you. On services around health and wellbeing, and specifically you mentioned obesity, I think we're one of the only boroughs in London that has a holistic service called One U Haringey. I recommend it to all, which combines both support for people experiencing issues around smoking, health-related issues to do with heart and healthy heart care, and also helps people tackle obesity and that side of things. So I think we do have quite a holistic offer, and I don't know about any other councillor, but every event I've been to in the community in the last year has had One U Haringey there. So that's one of our key mechanisms for providing access, if that was your question on that. In terms of free and accessible spaces, we do have a range of services also delivered out of libraries, but I do stress, I think the really important thing is, if organisations are looking at developing and creating services, there's a dialogue to be had, and there is a process here around our voluntary sector and our community services in order to do that.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any second supplementary questions? Nope. We move on to question 8. Can I ask Councillor Small to put his question for the Cabinet Member for Climate Action, Environment and Transport?
Thank you very much. Could the Cabinet Member please provide an update on how the Council is progressing on our commitment in the corporate delivery plan to make more roads in Haringey a maximum of 20 miles an hour?
Thank you for the question. The transformation of Haringey's roads to 20 miles an hour represents a fundamental reimagining of how we value life and the well-being of our community. Our Vision Zero commitment to eliminate road deaths and serious injuries by 2041 demands we question every assumption about how our streets function. And we are systematically addressing the remaining arterial routes where 30-mile-an-hour speed limits persist. So delegated responsibilities reports have been drafted for us to go to public and statutory consultations on routes such as Ferry Lane, Fortis Green, Lordship Lane, Muswell Hill, Priory Road. These just represent just 5 of the 10 roads immediately under consideration. So our approach to speed reduction represents a profound shift in how we conceptualize our space, from thoroughfares designed for maximum vehicle throughput to places where human life in all its vulnerability and vitality takes precedence. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I invite Councillor Small to ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Councillor Carter, for that response. I know you and Councillor Chanwani are very aware that in Hornsey we've been campaigning hard to get Priory Road 20 mile an hour for all the benefits that you outlined for residents. So very positive to hear that we're nearing the top of that list and getting that over the line. We have some other problematic roads in Hornsey, including Rokesley Avenue, Boyton Close, Boyton Road, Hornsey High Street, which are already 20 miles an hour. Could you say a little bit more about what else the council are doing to tackle problematic driving and those who recklessly flout the 20-mile-an-hour limit?
Councillor Party, you have 1 minute to respond.
I've only got 1 minute. Okay, I'll have to give you 1 minute's worth of the response, which will be broad brushstrokes, because we are, in terms of achieving a lot of our goals, in terms of tackling climate change, in terms of increasing active travel, sustainable travel in our borough, we are really succeeding on almost every metric. However, in terms of those additional speeds and looking at how we can intervene on those, Councillor Chanwani and I and the teams are looking at physical interventions, such as speed humps, in terms of chicanes and other physical interventions which actually help psychologically reduce speeds and make our roads safer. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any second supplementary questions? Councillor Corey Harrison.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor. Can you just confirm what work the Labour administration is doing to lobby the Labour government to devolve the powers to install and administer speed cameras away from TfL and the police towards local authorities?
So this is something that we take very seriously. We watched Wandsworth under the previous Conservative government try a pilot of devolved speed enforcement powers to local government, and that failed. However, as a, if you like, family of councils across London, we are working through London councils to lobby the DfT to explore that devolving of power. So we hope that that will be something that will be included going forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I'd just like to remind councillors that the supplementary question has to relate exactly to the subject area. While I know it was close, it was slightly off. So just a reminder. Now we move on to question 9. Can I ask Councillor Amin to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Climate Action, Environment and Transport?
Well, Mr. Mayor, that was a lesson in learning technology. My apologies for the delay in asking the question. My question is to Councillor Hakata. As the impact of climate change takes hold and weather patterns become, well, we couldn't.
Sorry, Councillor, would you mind moving closer to the mic?
Councillor Hakata, as the impact of climate change takes hold and weather patterns become increasingly more erratic, greening our urban spaces becomes increasingly urgent. Could you, as a Cabinet Member, outline what the Council has done to deliver urban greening in Haringey, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Party, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a really important question. We've made significant progress towards our ambitious target of planting 10,000 trees by 2030. We've already planted over 6,000 trees in the last 3 years. Many of these have been planted in areas of low canopy cover, where we're committed to raising coverage to 30%, especially in the east of the borough. We're empowering residents to green their own streets through our innovative tree sponsorship scheme and investments via the Shared Prosperity Fund in North Tottenham for street greening, rain gardens, suds and bulb planting. Over the last 2 years, we've worked with communities, especially with Emily Arkell, Councillor Arkell, in Parks to deliver 12 local greening projects, community-led greening projects. Alongside this, we've created 16 new wildflower meadows across the borough, and that is just the beginning of that programme. We're developing proposals for 3 new local nature reserves, with the first to be declared later this year, adding to our 158 parks and green spaces. We have undertaken important preservation, enhancement and protection programmes in our ancient woodlands. Key flood risk mitigation schemes such as SUDS and rain gardens are providing resilience to flash flooding on our roads, estates and green spaces, vital as weather patterns become more erratic. I could go on, but I think I'm probably running out of time. No, I've still got time. Okay, great. So I can end on one of my favourite topics. These initiatives work together with our wider environmental programme, from school streets, protecting 17,000 students, to low traffic neighbourhoods, reducing emissions for 55,000 residents, creating a more resilient, livable borough. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I invite Councillor Amin to ask a supplementary question.
Don't have a further question because I think we're doing a lot of work already.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Is there a second supplementary question? Councillor Corley-Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the question explicitly relates to greening urban spaces and you referred to rain gardens and SUDS, my question is, previously we discussed having schemes where residents could apply for rain gardens, build outs, parklets, that sort of thing on their streets potentially. And I know it's something that historically you've been looking at, but it's been difficult maybe to do. Is that still something that's on the horizon, that a resident could apply to turn road space in front of their property, let's say, into rain garden or SUDS garden in addition to the Trees for Streets scheme, and it not just be part of the rolling councils programme? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yep, thanks for that question. And that gives me the opportunity to pitch our curbside strategy, which is going to consultation, and that was approved by Cabinet, I think, only last week. The curbside strategy will be one where exactly those kind of questions can be put to our residents. What kind of things do they want to invest in and partnership with the council in terms of greening that really essential road space and curbside space? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. That completes item 11. Moving on to item 12, motions in accordance with Council Rules of Procedure 13. We will be debating two motions, or we'll be asking two motions for consideration. Firstly, I will ask Councillor Gordon to propose a motion, which is motion A, recognizing the Latin American community in Haringey. Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Latin American and Latin Caribbean residents form an important part of Haringey's cultural landscape, and this is a growing population. Haringey's Latin American population was ranked 6th in London in the 2011 consensus. By 2021, the number of residents had doubled to more than 10,000. This gives Haringey the third highest Latin American population after Lambeth and Southwark. This motion means a lot to me personally. Anyone active in politics in Haringey, as I've been for many years, knows about the decades-long campaign to save the Latin market. When there were plans to redevelop the site, the community fought long and hard to retain the market, famously achieving a highly unusual set of S106 conditions attached to the planning permission, and that meant that the market would have to be re-provided. This was achieved based on arguments around the distinct characteristics of the Latin American community and the responsibilities for catering for their needs. When I was first elected into the council in 2018, as chair of the Housing and Regeneration Scrutiny Panel, I initiated a scrutiny review of the development proposals. The evidence taken from traders and members of the community demonstrated beyond doubt the vital need to retain a cultural hub for Latin Americans here in Haringey. I'm absolutely delighted that the next few weeks will see the return of those traders to the market. Some of you may have seen the new beautiful entrance and the stalls that are all now ready for the return of around 40 traders and their customers from across the whole of London. We hope and believe that Seven Sisters Market will be a focal point for Latin American and Latin Caribbean culture, not just for Haringey, but for the whole of the capital. This motion is one more welcome step to recognising the cultural heritage and value of this community. Please support the motion.
Thank you very much, councillor. I now call on councillor Ovat to second the motion. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to extend my special thanks to my colleague and our Deputy Leader, Councillor Sarah Williams, for spearheading this important motion. Haringey is one of the most diverse boroughs, and here in Haringey, we take great pride in our diversity. As a Labor administration, we have striven to ensure our borough is a welcoming borough, one where people from all walks of life can build a future and contribute to our shared community. In Haringey, we don't just talk about diversity, we live it. Just look at our Labor councillors. We are a living example of what diverse and inclusive leadership looks like, from different faiths, heritages, and histories. We're proud to have the first Turkish Cypriot Muslim woman leading a council, the first Somali councillor. The list continues. We reflect the communities we serve, and that matters. As you can see, diversity and inclusivity are at the heart of our ethos. We are representative of our community, and representation is key. That's why today's motion is so important. Representation matters, and recognising the Latin American community here in Haringey is not only necessary, it's long overdue. As noted by Councillor Gordon, Haringey is home to one of the largest Latin American populations in the country, the third highest in London after Lambeth and Southwark. The impact of the Latin American community in Haringey is immense. The Latin American community has a rich, proud, and enduring presence in Haringey, not just in Seven Sisters, but woven throughout the borough. Their presence and contributions are deeply embedded in the cultural, social, and economic heartbeat of our borough. From thriving small businesses to the arts, from community organising to vibrant cultural events, the Latin American community brings life, colour, and energy to Haringey in a way that is unmistakable. Their story is Haringey's story, one of resilience, contribution, creativity, and community. But we need to do more than just listen. It's not enough for their voices to be heard. They must be valued, supported, and we must ensure that our communities are fully represented in the decisions that shape our borough. And this motion is another step forward for us in this mission. Our Latin American community can now proudly identify as Latin American, no more marking themselves as under other, no more statistical invisibility. The coalition of Latin Americans in the UK have done incredible work for this community across London. We join Islington, Hackney, Southwark and Lambeth in officially recognising the Latin American community, and we also join them as active campaigners for this change to be introduced in the 2031 census. As a Labour administration, we are committed to ensuring all communities are seen, heard and represented. We aim to reflect the needs of all our residents, and that includes strengthening the voice and presence of the Latin American community within our work and vision. One way we've done this is co-production.
That's time. If you can finish your sentence, but that's time.
Finished. We've established community networks in practical and meaningful ways. With the reopening of Seven Sisters Market, our goal is revitalisation, a renewal effort to support and empower the Latin American community that has made that space so iconic. I'm proud to second this motion. Let the message be clear. In Haringey, we don't just celebrate diversity, we build with it. Thank you.
Councillor Holding-Offices. We will now have a debate in accordance with SCL 15.1. I have received notification that Councillor Emery is speaking in the debate, and he's very passionate about it, I see.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will start by saying that growing up in a small village in South Wales, I didn't meet many people from a Latin American background. However, when I moved to Haringey almost a decade ago, it was brilliant to encounter such a rich and vibrant community, many of whom I believe made this borough their home for similar reasons to myself. We are a borough of people who welcome you, no matter your background. We will recognise you, as this motion mentions, as without recognition, you lose that core part of your identity. And of course, we will fight to protect your rights. As you can see in our 2018 joint motion
on defending migrant communities and those fleeing conflict abroad. When I speak to my friends from the region, they talk of their homes sharing this common theme of togetherness. As one Colombian friend recently put to me, we all share a culture, despite how we look, and we all look very different. The Latin American community have chosen to be part of Haringey, and we should take great pride in that, but we must not take it for granted. As we have seen in recent times, trust can be easily broken, and now relationships must be rebuilt to make sure we remain a welcoming place for all people and communities. There is more we can do. Casa de la Salud Hispanoamericana was the only Latin American organization working in Haringey for more than 15 years. Recently, they started closing services due to the lack of support and funds. Tottenham Carnival, which has not happened during the last few years, used to showcase the presence of the community locally through the arts. With the coming Borough of Culture, which I hope will be working closely with the Latin American people, the council should look to bring this back to our streets. Haringey is what it is because of our diverse community. It's a place where everyone belongs. This is a borough where richness is cultivated by everyone bringing different strengths and backgrounds to the table. In mentioning the table, it would be remiss of me not to welcome everyone to try Pura Vida, a Costa Rican restaurant that has just opened up in Bounds Green, and I'm happy to meet there for a fried plantain anytime. I'll just end by saying that despite getting engaged in Ecuador, my Spanish is still a little bit rusty. Regardless, gracias por elegir Haringey como su hogar y cuentos, siempre le damos la bienvenida. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Councillor. In accordance with SCO 15.11a, Councillor Gordon has a right of reply. You can speak for up to 5 minutes.
I don't think I need a right of reply, but I really hope everybody will support the motion. And I'd like to thank Councillor Emery for his support too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We will now vote on the motion. All those in favour of motion A? Thank you. All those opposed to motion A? All those abstaining from motion A? No? Well, I think that motion is very much agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We will now reach motion B on Thames Water. I will now ask Councillor Barnes to propose her motion. Please keep to the 5-minute rule. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we know, and we can all probably agree, Thames Water is in a parlous state. And we, as its forced customers, both councillors and residents, have seen a significant increase to our water bills for a really shoddy service. I would say that the money we pay to Thames Water goes straight down the toilet. But actually, so much of its water, in fact 25% of it, never reaches our homes, never mind our toilets. Instead, leaking out across our streets, closing roads, and inflicting temporary traffic lights and diversions across the borough to repeatedly fix the same leaks over and over and over again. In May this year, the chair of Thames Water, Sir David Montague, appeared before the Environment Select Committee and told them what he thought the company's most precious resource was. It wasn't infrastructure, no, it wasn't water, and nor was its customers who pay those ever increasing bills. No, the most precious resource is the senior management team, who need to be paid massive bonuses for their incompetence so we don't lose them. Don't lose them as a very precious resource. Last year, £158 million was handed out in shareholder dividends, and the CEO got a £195,000 bonus. That's almost 5 times the average salary of a Haringey resident. Meanwhile, the infrastructure, apparently a much less valuable resource, has not received the investment, improvement, or maintenance that it so desperately needs. And of course, the poor water quality of our rivers and seas due to frequent sewage spills are up 60% in just 1 year, with good old Thames Water responsible for almost half of those spills. So Haringey residents seeking cool swims at the seaside during the summer holidays, hopefully the weather will be warm enough for that, may want to think twice about just how inviting that water really is. Now, I don't envy this government in dealing with this issue. While we may all agree on the policy disaster which brought us to this point, the way out is much more uncertain, and it will be interesting to see which of the 88 recommendations from today's report this government chooses to implement. The water companies have been asset stripped, and it is hard to see a solution to financing. Customers should not be bailing out these companies with ever increasing bills, while shareholders and senior execs receive very generous payouts. Allowing Thames Water to apply for huge loans at eye-watering interest rates, which was challenged in court by Liberal Democrat MP Charlie Maynard, though sadly unsuccessfully, is not a sustainable solution. The company may stagger on for a little while, but water will still leak across our streets and our bills will still increase. This government has made some decent first steps. At least they've recognised that there is a problem, which is more than can be said for the Tories. Plans are afoot to scrap the toothless regulator Ofwat, a long-standing Lib Dem ask that this Labour government has also come around to. But more action is needed, especially regarding Thames Water. Haringey Liberal Democrats have absolutely zero confidence in Thames Water and believes that it needs to be placed in special administration. So rather than harping on about a coalition which ended over a decade ago, we really hope that this council can speak with one voice on this particular issue to the government. So support this motion unamended and allow the government to respond to today's report to improve water across the UK. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I now call upon Councillor Connor to second the motions. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to second our motion. So in May 2025, Ofwat fined Thames Water a record 123 million. Why? Because of 2 things: widespread sewage spills and paying out dividends. Of that fine, 104.5 million was for raw sewage discharged into our rivers. The rest, 18.2 million, was for handing money to shareholders while failing to meet even the most basic environmental standards. In 2024, Haringey Community Press reported that in just 1 year, over 200 sewage spills were recorded in our local waterways. The River Lee, which winds through our parks and communities, was repeatedly polluted, posing a risk to our environment, wildlife, and our residents' public health. But here's the bigger picture. Thames Water is buried under a debt of £16.8 billion. Because of that debt, Thames Water simply isn't investing enough in critical repairs or upgrades. That means leaking pipes remain unrepaired, our sewage infrastructure remains overwhelmed. In 2024, Thames Water was attempting to persuade the regulator to let it raise customer bills by up to 40% over the next 5 years. So in Haringey, we face this unfair equation: worse service, more pollution, and higher bills. Let me be clear, this is not just financial mismanagement, it's a failure of priorities. When dividends come before drains and shareholder profits before safe water, it's the public who pay twice, once through our wallets and again through polluted rivers and underfunded infrastructure. So what can we do differently? First, we need stricter regulations and tougher enforcement. Fines aren't enough. They must come with mandated repairs and environmental cleanups. chief execs and boards actually held to account. Second, we need real transparency. Sewage data should be made public and real time. Residents have the right to know what's going on to their rivers. Third, we must demand better from regulators. The government announced today that Ofwat is to replace by one single water regulator, responsible for the entire water system. We need to see the details to understand if this will substantially reduce pollution without passing the costs on to our residents. To be honest, it's time to rethink ownership. If Thames Water can't operate responsibly, we must consider public or cooperative ownership, models that reinvest in communities, not dividends. Clean water is a right, not a privilege, and polluted water shouldn't be the price we pay for corporate failure. Let's stand up for Haringey, for our health, our environment, and our future. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I have received an amendment in accordance with the Council's standing orders. I call upon Councillor Hakata to move the amendment. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and actually keep it brief. Thames Water loses a quarter of its drinking water through leaks. Roads in Haringey are repeatedly closed because they patch problems rather than fix them. Their chairman tells Parliament their most precious resource is senior management, not water or customers. Given their performance, I wouldn't trust them to run a bath, let alone a water company. Thames Water's performance is so chaotic, it's like watching the wheels come off a clown car, except instead of circus performance tumbling out, it's raw spillage spilling into our rivers and the executives clutching £1 million bonuses. Dear Mr. Thames Water Chairman, your precious resource is definitely not your senior executive team. The Labour amendment to this proposal is to strengthen the resolutions and to show our strong support for nationalisation. It's also to underline the work that this Labour government is already doing to come down on executives and to oppose the payment of unjustifiable bonuses. So ultimately, our residents deserve better than this toxic combination of environmental destruction and financial exploitation. I urge all members to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I now call upon Councillor White to second the amendment. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In seconding this amendment this evening, I'd like to take a look at the actual ownership of Thames Water, which you can find out quite easily by looking at Thames Water's own website. So 60% of the ownership is pension funds, mostly Canadian state employees, plus a bit pension funds of UK university sector and the Dutch health sector. 25% of the ownership is state investment vehicles of Abu Dhabi, China, and the Australian state of Queensland. And then the other 15% is various private investors. And in fact, if you look at any piece of our national infrastructure, whether that's the train companies or the bus companies that take you to and from work, or the energy companies that power our homes and businesses, or the care homes that provide social care to some of our most vulnerable residents and account for such a large portion of the council's budget. And you'll find that ultimately the ownership structure is usually the same mix of private equity, pension funds, and sovereign wealth funds. And all these institutions have a common aim, which is to maximise the profit on their investment. And this comes ahead of, it has to come ahead of any other considerations, including quality of service, environmental protection, and long-term investment in the network. And they're only able to consider these things if they help to generate greater returns. So as we can see from the state of our water system, the judgment has clearly been made that investment in environmental protection in our water system would harm profits, and so it's been neglected. The result of privatisation of our national infrastructure, from social housing to water, energy, transport, etc., has been that this infrastructure has been allowed to crumble, while the bills we pay for it benefit overseas investors, overseas pensioners and governments. And when we pay our bills, whether that's our water bills, our council tax, or even pay for a train ticket, rather than money being invested into our infrastructure, a portion of it is siphoned off from the national economy, and it goes to benefit either pensioners abroad or foreign governments or just private investors. And no wonder, if this is happening across our economy and across our infrastructure, no wonder our economy is in such a mess. Critical national infrastructure, like the water supply, can't be allowed to be in the hands of investors who just seek profit. Only nationalisation can provide a model for water and other national infrastructure that prioritises long-term investment, quality of service and environmental protection. And that's why I'm happy to be seconding an amendment that strengthens this motion and sets out the Council's strong support for nationalisation. So please support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. We will now have a debate in accordance with SCL 15.1. I have received notification that Councillor Luke Fawley-Harris is speaking in the debate. Councillor Fawley-Harris, you have 3 minutes.
Fawley-Harrison. So it's rather timely that we're debating this motion on the very day Sir John Cunliffe publishes his final report into the UK's broken water system. Of course, it was the Liberal Democrats who first brought this issue to national attention. We've campaigned tirelessly against the sewage spills polluting our rivers and seas, against the complete failure of Ofwat, and against the obscene bonuses handed to water company executives, with billions squandered and billions more borrowed at eye-watering rates and bailouts. And meanwhile, the water network collapses around us. One of today's report's 88 recommendations is to scrap Ofwat, something we've called for since 2022 and included in our general election manifesto. And it's welcome that Labour has finally agreed to proceed on this. But let's be clear, this would not be happening without the Liberal Democrats' campaigns and the millions who backed us at last year's elections. But even with this report and a new government, we're still not seeing anything like the radical reform we need. Labour's response so far is frankly underwhelming. They've chosen to amend today's motion to point the finger at a coalition government that formed 15 years ago and made a small reduction to Ofwat's funding as the problem with the water industry, while ignoring the fact that under this current Labour government, serious pollution incidents rose 60% last year, the highest on record, with Thames Water the worst offender. Their Environment Secretary, Steve Reed, has also in the last year announced plans to loosen regulation on chicken farms, a move that could pour even more waste, chicken feces in fact, into our rivers. And as for their much vaunted Water Special Measures Act, despite promises to ban bonuses for polluting water bosses, Thames Water alone actually paid out 2.46 million in bonuses in April this year, and are set to pay the same again in December, and another 10 million next June. Meanwhile, senior executive pay has increased under the Act, not fallen. Southern Water's CEO salary has almost doubled now to £1.4 million this coming year. Even worse, neither this report nor the Labour government have made any mention of ending the private monopoly over our water supply. Public or mutual ownership must be part of the solution. And while Labour's amendment today at least nods in that direction, nationally, sadly, they're silent. Let's not forget Thames is still being allowed to borrow billions more, dodge fines and hike bills by up to 50% by this Labour government. This is a national scandal. It isn't something we can fix with minor tweaks to the current failing system. We need bold, urgent action to overhaul our water system. And the Liberal Democrats will keep leading the fight until we get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fawley-Harrison, and sincere apologies on the mistake. In accordance with SCL 15.11a, please can Councillor Barnes respond? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to everybody for contributing to this discussion, particularly to Councillor Hakata. I don't think we've ever agreed so much. With Thames Water losing a quarter of our water, the repeated fixing and the precious resources, and something I haven't thought of, no, I wouldn't trust them to run a bar either, never mind a water company. So do vote for this motion, but unamended. So nationalisation may be your preferred option, but actually there's other options such as the community model, and customers actually care about the results. They don't care about how it's run, We had this discussion about our own leisure centres. The customer doesn't care who runs it or how it's run. They care about the point of service and the service that they receive that they're paying for. So we can't focus on the politics when we need solutions, merely to allow people of Haringey to have the basic right of clean water. And yes, the Liberal Democrats have led on this issue. We've suffered Ed Davey in a wetsuit more times than I would like to recall. And today we've heard campaigners, not from the Liberal Democrats actually, calling for the resignation of Labour's Secretary of State responsible, just saying that he has failed to do enough and it's time for a change. Meanwhile, bonuses continue and we haven't got a resolution. So I ask for you to support this motion unamended and to go to this government, the Labour government, your very good friends, and ask them to support us in putting Thames Water into administration, special administration, and to start to address the water issues that we face in Haringey and across the services where Thames Water provide, across the areas Thames Water provide water badly to our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We will now vote on the amendment. If it is agreed, we will vote on the motion as amended. If it is not agreed, we will vote on the original motion. So all those in favour of the amendment? Thank you very much. All those opposed to the amendment? Thank you very much. All abstaining? So thank you very much. That means the amendment to the motion is carried. We will now vote for the motion as amended. All those in favour? All those opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is agreed. That completes our business for this meeting. Thank you very much for coming and thank you to our guests for attending at the back.